Welcome to GreatLakes-TCG's YouTube channel. My name's Jeff, and with me is actually one of our local players, Jeff.
Hey guys.
All right, you got two Jeffs with you today. Gonna go over an EB02 tier list. We have this meta for about 1 month. Is that right?
But that's right.
All right, and I think this is all the meta relevant leaders. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chief.
Yep, everything. If you don't see it, it's cope.
I agree. So we might disagree a little bit on the actual placement of things, but I think we overall agree on the tiers, right? Like you believe like these belong in their respective tiers. All right. All right.
Yeah.
So just to get into things and just to a small little preface, we haven't really uploaded a lot in OP10, even though I really had plans to. Unfortunately, things were busy with work, and also I didn't do so hot in OP10. I played in a couple events and didn't do so well. So I really like to upload things when I have a good grasp on the meta that I'm actually performing. And I don't know, Jeef, how did you do in OP10?
Listen, we don't really talk about it, but that's part of the game, Not even the best players do well every time,
That's true.
So
That's true. Our goat Jonas, right? Either way,
Jackson, where's he been? Actually, he did good in the
I
last
think he just
tournament,
topped. But
yeah,
regardless,
but
just going right into the tier list. Green Purple Luffy. Now, there's some contention. Some people think this is a fake tier 0 deck, and I don't even think it's a tier 0 deck. I agree. But I do think he deserves the #1 spot, mostly because he is shaping the EB02 meta. There's a lot of hype around him. The cards, like the deck's gonna cost $500 just to fucking play it day one. Maybe even more. So
that's true. It's like,
yeah.
how much do you really want to? How much are you expecting? Like, how many are you expecting to even be there if it's that hard to get a hold of the deck,
I know professional like TCG players, if they want to play this deck, if it is truly the
For
best
sure.
deck in the meta, they're gonna find a way to get the cards. Now,
For sure.
I also think it's a good deck. I've seen people who are really good at it do very good things with it. They don't play conventional, lines. It's actually
Yeah.
a very variable deck despite playing basically 4 of everything.
It's very consistent.
Very consistent deck. It sees its pieces almost every game and does what it wants to do. But there's also different play lines you can make despite, what the conventional lines are, which I think is where it's where the best players are going to shine, is being able to put your opponent in situations they might not have seen before when they're testing on the sim.
Yeah.
I do think Blackbeard deserves the #2 spot, and I will get to your Shanks in a second. I know, just a
We'll get to
spoiler,
Jinx in a second.
Jeef thinks that Shanks is #1, but I think
Potentially.
I don't think it's wrong, but I think Blackbeard is actually equivalent to Green Purple Luffy in this meta. This deck,
So
what?
yeah.
Well, no,
You
I
can
was
go
gonna
on.
say
I'll say my piece a second.
this deck has been a better adapter to the meta than Lucci has. Lucci has been smacked with nerf after nerf after nerf, and he's still around, sure. But Blackbeard has been adapting way better than I actually expected it to. And both OP09, EB10, OP10 and EB02, they're now playing other cards such as the Cobra, and one of our friends of the channel, I would say, he's actually, at least in OP10, he was the #1 ranked Blackbeard player and sim player in general
For the whole time.
season. Yeah, for
number
all
one,
of OP10.
#1 ranked player on ladder.
Yeah, and
Any deck.
he initially was going to be off of Blackbeard for EB02, but after he played this matchup more and more and more, he's actually made a lot of tech decisions and gameplay decisions that have been fruitful for him. And so I think Blackbeard hasn't seen his last days. I think he's actually pretty strong.
Yeah.
And
It still needs some slight refinement.
Yes.
But it can definitely by the end of the month, it can definitely be up here. That's for sure.
No, 100% agree. And I also think, well, we only have a month for this meta, but I also think that one thing Blackbeard has going for it is that Shanks is now transitioning, and we can talk about Shanks now, to a more control deck. It's now playing what they call quote unquote bomb Shanks. So you're playing those 10 cost KO Shanks, right? You're playing the film Shanks or whatever, right? They're playing more of a control style.
I would still say there are some rush variants
Or
still.
hybrid more so than rush. But yeah,
I think it's either it's kind of either control or rush. I need
sure.
to try out more rush. I'm interested. It's been okay so far. I haven't played too much of it, but yeah, for the most part, heavy control with like Seven Beard,
Yeah,
just
Seven Beard. I've seen Red Force. I've seen people take out the
Red
5 cost
Force.
Luffy's for like Marcos instead. So like they're
Yeah,
really
but
testing.
if you're gonna do all that, Blackbeard gets very hard
So
very
then
quickly.
this, yeah. So you're teching more for this matchup, but then this matchup becomes a lot worse. I agree. And then finally, Purple
Right.
Luffy. I think this deck is so fucking consistent. It's just been sitting at like the the tail end of S tier, or like the top 4, top 5, whatever, of every tier so far. Like OP, like I think like since OP8 onward, it's actually been in contention for being like top 5 deck. Almost,
Yeah,
it's hilarious. Um, I think Purple
just has a
Luffy,
good spread.
yeah, exactly. With the bans, Gum Gum Giants doing really, really well. And OP10 Purple Luffy, I actually think Purple Luffy was the most winning quote unquote deck in OP10. I think it had the most tops and the best conversion rate. Don't quote me on that. It had one of the best conversion rates in tops. There were a lot of,
It was definitely top 3
yeah, no,
for
100%.
without a doubt.
Yeah, yeah. Like it was consistent. And even just this last weekend, I think there was a top 8 Purple Luffy, if not 2. Regardless, uh, this deck is just, its going first curve is very, very strong. Its going first curve can
Yes,
contend against Green Purple Luffy. It could still play
I would
against Blackbeard. It could still beat Shanks.
I would say its going first curve is definitely winning against GP, especially if you play
Yeah.
like 9 moms
Yeah.
or the 9. You want to run more of those 9 costs. Those do very well
Yeah.
against GP.
And I've seen a lot of people put Magellan back in. They were doing it a little bit back in OP10, but with Dofi still around, it was, it was like a plus minus. But I personally think with Shanks becoming less aggro and more control, and with GP Luffy around and with Lucci around, like these being like essentially like the top 5,
Yeah,
or even Bonnie like top 6 most played
and
decks.
Blackbeard, it's good against Blackbeard
Yep. And
too.
the fact that Dofi's falling off a little bit more, mostly because GP's taking its spot, I think Magellan is going to come back in spades. I think 3 or 4 of in the deck as a staple now, once again for the EB02 meta. It just does, it fixes your going second curve. I think it does very well into the way these decks are turning to, trying to play. And we'll go from there. Now, moving over, so I think these 4 are the clearly like the 4 best decks. I think they will take most of the topping spots. Now,
Yeah,
I think
agree there.
just a little shy of like being equivalent in power rank, it's Lucci.
Yeah.
The deck's resilient as hell. It does, apparently there's been some debates between Green Purple Luffy and Lucci online. I know there is a whole little drama thing going on there. I won't get into it, but what do you think, Jeff?
My opinion is Lucci's favored, but
Okay,
it's very skill intensive. I think if you're a good player on either deck, like you're gonna probably win more often. Like,
sure.
you know what I mean?
Sure. No, I can agree with that. I think both of them are making tech choices to help each other. Green
Yeah.
Purple Luffy are
But
adding in some parts.
but
Yes.
Lucci has to tech way more for GP than GP does for Lucci. And when Lucci techs that much for GP, it starts to become an issue against other decks, you know?
Yeah. Like for
Like,
instance, if you're putting in the Sabos don't do shit against Blackbeard, right? They also don't do
yeah,
crap against Shanks for the most part.
yeah.
Right? I'm
Or
just talking like
like,
the
you
8
know,
cost Sabo.
like the 10 cost Kuzan, like you play those that they're useless against Blackbeard pretty much.
Personally, I think Tenkos Kuzan's a bad card. I personally think that. Maybe it's a hot take. I think Tenkos Kuzan in those, I guess the way people play against Lucci, if they know Tenkos Kuzan's in your deck, they're not gonna let you get the 10 to safely play it. They're going to attack your
Yeah.
face over and over and over. And all these decks up here have the ability to do that. And also with Bomb Shanks being a thing, I love that we call it that.
Yeah.
You play 10 cost Kuzan, I play 10 cost Shanks. Like it's just
Yeah,
You lose so much tempo
10
with
pop
that.
shanks is it's very good against Lucci, especially like either if they play Kaido or they play Kuzan, you
Yeah,
can pop either of those and it swings so hard in the Shanks' favor
yeah, like
after
so.
that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just such a big swing. So I personally just think that Tenkos Kuzan's not going to find its way in the final builds. Maybe some people are going to do well with it, but I feel like in a top class scenario, it's going to be very easy to exploit. Uh,
Yeah,
but moving forward, I still think it's a good deck though. Like I think Lucci's resilient. I think it's good. Bonnie, I don't
Bonnie.
like that this deck is doing good. I don't like it. Uh,
Surprising.
surprisingly, yes, it's doing good because it has a good matchup in the green purple.
Very
It's
good matchup, yeah.
agreed. It's surprisingly, if you see the right cards, your Shanks matchup when I thought it was previously like just Jover, they've spent a large majority of OP10 tailoring their deck to be better into Shanks. So they've taken out the
Right.
cards that don't work and they've put in cards that do work, and the deck honestly plays roughly the same as it did back in OP10. It's just the meta shifted around it rather than it shifting for the meta. Um,
Me personally, as far as like the Bonnie versus Shanks matchup, like with Shanks running control, I mean, I would need to see what you're talking about more. Like face value, I think Shanks just obliterates Bonnie. Like
so
especially with the 10 drop
yeah,
Shanks,
I
like
agree. I agree that like the more bomb Shanks, like it'll probably make it a lot harder for you, like to chain your, like if you play Zoro, if you're playing if you like have like Red Force for instance, and then you're able to use Red Force and
yeah,
then KO their 9 cost Shanks with your 10 cost Shanks, like those are big swings in your favor. So I do think
yeah,
I just don't know what the final version of Shanks is going to look like, but
yeah.
yeah,
That's yeah.
but I do
But
think
also Lucci's around, like doesn't
yeah,
really matter too much what Lucci's running. Lucci's gonna be good against Bonnie.
I do agree. No, I do agree. It's I don't know this. If you look at the sim stats, at least initially, I think
I
Bonnie was
know
number
she
2.
was second.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's I don't think Bonnie I don't think we can count her out just yet. She might end up a little bit more over here by the end of this meta, but I think I've been seeing a lot of Bonnie
yeah,
on sim. Like more Bonnie. I've been seeing more Bonnie on sim than Purple Luffy. And these are like in the like top 200s. I'm not that high up yet, but like I'm in the top 200s. I'm not like in the top 50s yet to see like what the top players are really playing, but we'll see.
yeah,
Um, Smoker, this deck got a big buff with EB02. Uh, it's a lot of people are playing the like that kind of control hybrid build that like did really well in Japan. Um,
yeah.
I've been seeing that actually a lot on Sim. It's a good deck.
Yep.
I think it's good against Green Purple Luffy. Unfortunately, I just don't
Yeah.
see. I think Bonnie's just a better deck than Red Green Smoker. Maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like Bonnie's just a better version of it. It's more consistent. It's a 5 life leader. It's able to do what this deck wants to do, but a little bit better. Um, this deck really just heavily relies on seeing your 5 cost smoker still. It still does. It's unfortunate, but that's kind of how it is. Uh,
Yeah. Not too much my wheelhouse. So
yeah. Dofi, and like I said, we kind of already alluded to it, but it's fallen in favor mostly because Green Purple Luffy does really well into it. You have Electrical Luna, which does well. You also
yeah.
have
You have stage, right? You can
Stage.
your Zoro Duro doesn't get bounced anymore.
Yep. You're able to even my 3 cost
Your
blocker
five
Robin.
drop doesn't get
Yeah,
bounced
exactly.
by the Jozu.
And a lot of them are even off of Jozu or just playing like 2 of them instead of 4, at least from the lists I've seen. But I do think Dofi does fall out of favor a little bit. Um, and yeah, there's not
Even
much more to
just like
say.
your 5 drop can't get gravity bladed
Yeah,
if it's got the +2 cost.
yeah.
So
It's actually
very good.
the stage does wonders.
Stage
Next,
does wonders.
now we have Lim. Lim was one of my favorite decks in OP10 actually. The issue with Lim right now is it also heavily gets gate kept by Electrical Luna, which most of these decks are running at a 3 of, if not 4 of sometimes. I've seen at
Yeah.
least in deck lists. So Electrical Luna really hurts Lim. Another thing that hurts Lim is the fact that the Shanks is now being more control heavy, and that's just if they're able to keep your board clean it's just hard for you to kind of build a board against Shanks. So Shanks
Yeah.
is still kind of gatekeeping
It
you a
was
bit.
already it
It
was
was already a
already
hard
hard.
matchup, and now it's even harder if they're playing like Red Force and stuff like that. So unfortunately for them, I think it's fallen out of favor a little bit too, but still a good deck. Like if you hit your curve and the Shanks isn't playing that variant, or if you hit your curve against green purple, you could still do well.
Yeah.
But those are some of the more prominent cards that hurt you. Anel, I don't want to put up here. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this leader ever. The issue is people are playing him. He's got a really good new card, and people are testing it on Sim, and they're seeing decent results. Agree, disagree? Have you been seeing Anel on Sim?
I played against one. I was playing Shanks. It was a long fought battle because I originally because when the bans first happened, Anel started to switch to like full aggro kind of.
Yeah.
But now it's like even without Rygo, they can still kind of do a bit of a starve. They just have so much top end,
They
and
they just
being
play
able to
like
Yamato whatever you play, you know.
yeah, where they just starve you, they heal you with like the Kuzan, or they're healing you with like the Katas, and then so then their Yamatos are able to reach your 7 or 8 costs. It's kind of
Yeah.
like annoying. On top of that,
So there's probably like two, what would you say, like fields of Anel where it's like you
yeah,
got the rush side and the starves side,
yeah, and
and
also like
they're
the
both
fact that
decent.
yeah, and the fact that Nels like their top end is now hitting for 12K instead of hitting for 10K, like where the ace was hitting on like the tournaments being played.
Yeah.
That's so much strong. It's so much harder to defend against in general. A 12K versus a 10K like that. You think just like a 2K difference isn't like as much, but you are asking for 2 more cards on average every time like you used to defend out of an
Yeah.
ace swing. So
And like whenever you were to like try to beat Anel, you would swing at their big guys to
yeah,
get cards out of their hand, and just having that extra power just means less cards out of the Anel's hand.
yeah. Luckily, it's only an 11K. It only gains that extra 1K like on attack, like when you're swinging into it. But
Yeah.
still, like it still matters. Like you'll be surprised the amount of times I'm beating an L by 1 or 2K, right? Now,
Yeah.
I'm not going to spend as much time on these guys down here, but just to go very quickly, Red Purple Luffy is maybe a pet deck of mine. I think this deck is I think it has legs. I really want it to have legs. I played against it on Sim as green purple, and I got my ass beat. Maybe it's just because I was in, I didn't know what the deck wanted to do. That version of the deck, they put down a bunch of 10 cost Shanks. I don't know if that's what they're even playing, but I
Yeah.
do think this deck has legs because especially if Shanks is going to be like up here, right? If Shanks is actually being played, I know it can do well into green purple with the right build. It could always, against Purple Luffy, it really like matters on who ramps and like what cards you see and what top end
Yeah.
you see. So I do know, and against Blackbeard it is a tough matchup, but like I do know it can do well, or with the right cards or right build into the top 3 or top 3 of the 4. So I know it has legs. I just don't know what that is yet. So I'm gonna be tinkering with the RP Luffy build, and if anyone knows one, please post it in the comments. I want to see this. Reiju and Reiju, I think. Well, I'll let you talk. Actually, where do you think Reiju is? I have it
Alright.
here, but do you agree?
So, well, so a good GP player can make Reiju's game a living nightmare. Just she never gets to play her guys off the little guys,
If they're
just
like
because
really aggressive
GP
leader ability,
can
right?
make it. Yeah, yeah. If GP knows what they're doing, they can make it to where you can never play the little guys. Play the big guys off the little guys.
Yeah.
So I think a good GP just kind of smokes Reiju.
Okay.
And
There
with
you heard it
Shanks
here.
running more control heavy, I still think Reiju's favored against Shanks, even with the control heavy, but maybe
Really?
it's a little
Okay.
closer now.
Our resident Reiju player was saying he doesn't like 10 cost Shanks because like it's hard for Reiju to interact with anything
Yeah,
like that high
yeah,
power and that high cost. Like they just don't have the tools. I guess I've seen some playing Red Rock, but typically at least the builds I were seeing don't have the tools to deal with it that well.
yeah. I played against one. I dropped to 10 Shanks, and it got red rocked, and and then the next turn they played Vin Smoke Judge, and then it's just over from there. But
Okay, so maybe Luigi does have some legs. Maybe I'm
maybe
giving
there's
it
some
too much
spice.
credit.
Who knows?
Maybe. So I guess maybe it just needs to
But
adapt a bit.
yeah, but that's their, that's
Yeah.
Shanks. That's their matchup that they have
Yeah.
favored, I'd say.
Zoro kind of similar to Dofi, just real quick. It's aggro is just kind of out of the meta because it's like very similar to what Dofi did when it first hit the meta, right? It kind of just killed aggro decks because this was like mid-range aggro
Yeah,
that just beat every other aggro deck, and that's kind of what Green Purple Luffy's doing.
yeah. Especially with that 4-cost Zoro that rests and swings into
That's so good.
like, yeah.
Um, Kid, this is another one of my pet decks. I played Kid like in a lot of OP10. I think the new beige blocker is really, really good. Unfortunately, Kid didn't have the greatest matchup in the Teach. It never had the greatest matchup in the Shanks, especially if Shanks is on the KO Shanks, because it just KOs your laws or your nine your
It had a
kids right
good
away.
it had a good matchup against
It
Shanks.
did, but
Now
now
with
it's
the 10
tough. Like the
pop,
10, yeah, the pop Shanks really messes this matchup up. So I can't really feasibly put
yeah.
it higher than this. Vegapunk I've been seeing on Sim on and off a little bit. I think in the right hand it could be really, really strong, but I do think that the skilled players who know the matchup or know how to play against Vegapunk will likely be able to
Yeah.
still pull through. I think they're close matches, they'll probably be long, but I think Vegapunk it's good deck, but I don't know if it's
Yeah.
top
I
tier.
think Control Shanks kind of works it pretty
Yeah.
good.
Odin I've been
It
seeing
does like it has like a 50-50 against GP. Sorry.
I could see that. I just feel like Electrical Luna hits your whole board, so
Yeah.
it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, I'm
Oh,
gonna rest everything.
that's true.
Uh,
Run for Electrical Luna. You heard it here first.
straight. It's such a good card. It's actually kind of broken. Odin. I've only putting this up here because I've seen so many people hype the hell out of this deck. Every time I played against it on Sim, it's been very underwhelming. I've basically been except for maybe once. Yeah, Skis, another kind of friend of the channel. He's been really big on Odin.
Skis' time to shine. Come on.
I hope to see it. I want him to do well. I want Odin to be up here. I want him to be up here, but I just can't feasibly put them up there yet. I haven't seen the results. Italian Luffy. Chief, what do you think?
It's interesting. It needs some work, but it has, it can do well against GP. It can do better against Blackbeard than Lucci can, but
Agreed.
it's down here still because I think Lucci used to beat it, and it probably still does. It's just not as crazy as Lucci.
I think it's good. I think it's more.
But I still think it's playable.
I think it's in a very similar situation it was back then, without the surprise factor.
Yeah.
Where it does better into Blackbeard than Lucci does. It could still do well into the other decks, but a little bit less than Lucci. So Lucci's still better into most other decks, except for Black, where this is better into Black. That's kind of like the easiest way to put it. Marco, the only reason why he's up here is because he has a winning matchup into this thing. I think he has a losing matchup. Actually, not into Shanks. I think he has a losing matchup into both Blackbeard and Purple Luffy and Lucci. So you got 2 out of 5. Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Though I'm curious on 10 pop Shanks how well that does into Marco.
That's actually very
but
true.
Maybe since Marco plays Sanji plays multiple out, it can get hard. Maybe.
Because before the reason, and I played a lot of Animal Marco at the end of OP10. I think before the reason why Marco was so good is because you're able to put out a bunch of those like the 2K, like the 2-cost blockers, the Richies or whatever. And Shanks just has such a terrible time dealing with the baby blockers essentially. But now that you're playing, so you could your Whitebeards would be able to hide behind those blockers while still getting a lot of value. But now that you've just played pop Shanks, you just pop the Whitebeard right off the bat, and it doesn't matter if you have an army of blockers. You're not killing Shanks, right? Like you need the Whitebeards to stick.
Yeah.
So
matchup might have got closer.
It might have gotten closer. Yeah, exactly. Whitebeard. This guy just got second place at a regional. I don't know how. I don't know what the hell people are doing. Like they just can't play against the 6K leader. Like do they just do not know how to swing into Whitebeard? I don't get it. I don't get it. That
He's
said,
got zero life. He's got 10 in hand. The
then
opponent feels the need. I gotta go for it. He
I gotta
swings
go for it.
15.
Swings 15. The Lightbeard
Oh,
counters out with 4 cards, calls it a day.
yeah.
3 cards even sometimes, depending on what you use. But he's only here because I know people are gonna still play this deck, and I know he's gonna do something. Either way,
Yeah.
Gecko. I love this deck. Have you seen the most recent version?
I've seen you got your guys' little Kumasi little
No, well, no. So
stage.
there's a new version. There's a better version, I guess, than the ones we were
Okay,
messing with.
okay. Maybe
It's
that one's a
good.
goofy one then.
He also got a new card. It's good. I don't know if it's good enough to be up here in A, but it's at the tail end of B. I feel comfortable putting this thing here.
I saw that they were running the double attack.
Yes, the double attack
Four
Echo.
drop.
Yeah, or is it? Yeah, it's Echo.
It's Ryuma.
Ryuma. Thank you. Now I'm not going to spend a lot of time at all on C and F. Well, F, you know, these decks are now trash. They suck. This deck was already bad, but now it's even worse.
Hope.
Yeah. These decks in here, just to like kind of broadly say it, these are decks that have the card pool potential to do well, but they're not either consistent enough or their power level is not high enough to do consistently well into the top 4 decks. And that's why they're down here. I do know that, for instance, Arlong can hit a high roll that can beat all 4 of these. Arlong's actually, they got a new card, and it's really funny when you do hit that high roll, but it's not doing it consistently enough as a 4-life leader to beat these consistently. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I'd say I'd say the same for like Calgara. Calgara's high roll is like disgusting, but you won't hit it that often, and when you don't, it's like it's not great.
They got the searchable 10 cost NL, and they have, you know, generally a ton of cards in hand, and so they're able to just really use NL's ability on curve, and so that's Calgara could potentially do something, but I'll have to see it.
It's pretty bricky, and it's like
yeah,
you get to a point where like you have 10 costs an L, but if you're at 0 life and you play the 10 costs an L, like you're just gonna die the next turn. You can't leave any Dawn up for anything, you know.
Well, G, thank you for joining me. Any closing thoughts? Because I feel like we speed ran through this tier list.
Okay. Yes.
But I want to.
One thing I want to say. One thing I want to say about Shanks' position in this meta is right now,
it's always
like you said, everybody's trying to counter GP.
Yeah.
And the thing about Shanks is he does well against GP, but he also does really well against everything that does well against GP. You know, like Bonnie, Smoker, or you know, all these decks that are trying to counter GP. Shanks kind of obliterates.
I don't
So
know
that's
if
why I think
obliterate
he's
is the word.
pretty
so okay,
maybe
we'll get
not
into it. We'll get into
but...
it. Let's just take a couple minutes to talk about Shanks. I was on Shanks for a lot of OP10. I climbed the ladder with Shanks. I like the deck. But he has failed me.
Yeah.
For the last month and a half, he has failed me. And it's just the amount of times, like Jeff, the amount of times that I was in a winning position and I would have 7 cards in hand to my opponent's 1. Like, I am clearly tempo up, board's better than theirs, everything's better than theirs. Yet they hit some miraculous, oh, I'm going to go for a 7k swing Hail Mary into a 6-card hand Shanks, and I have 5 bricks. Like, look, I'm not even talking, like, it's ridiculous. It's been ridiculous. And I'm even playing Quan's version, which has 3 less bricks than the normal person. And even on that version, or the normal deck, and even on the 3 less bricks deck, I'm still, like, it's still, like, an insane amount of...
I don't know. I haven't really... My issue isn't really hand bricking, because, like, I watched Maurizio, who got over in the EU. He went, like, top 4 in a regional, then 2nd place in the regional right after that, both on Shanks. And, like, his sort of saying, because people are asking him like, I can't play the deck because I brick. I have 6 cards in my hand; they're all bricks.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, his position on that is, your mulligan is really important. Like, if you have a somewhat decent hand, you just have to keep it. Like, there is no like being greedy. As long as you have some of your curve and like some 2Ks, that is plenty for Shanks. Because Shanks' cards are so strong on their own.
I agree. No, and
But
I think if you are playing Shanks and you hit your curve, like like even going first, if you Sanji into 5 Luffy into Beckman into
well,
Dragon or
his
Rayleigh, like
what
you're
he was saying is you don't need all of that. You don't. You just like, it's not
I
worth the
agree.
risk to mulligan into something like unholy.
So my problem is this. It's not the mulligan that's getting me. Like I will have that, right? I'll have that. I'll have
Yeah.
the perfect curve. That's why I'm winning board. That's why I'm winning hand. But then it'll be 6 at life. Take. It's a 5 cost Luffy in hand when I already have a dragon that I'm playing the next turn. Draw. It's a 10 cost Shanks when I'm already playing dragon the next turn. Draw. It's an 8
Yeah.
cost Rayleigh where I don't need this card in my hand right now. Take life. Another 5 cost Luffy. I'm like, I've already I played my 5 cost Luffy on curve. Now I'm drawing the other 3, right?
Yeah.
It was like that type of thing that was really getting me. Like, yes, I was on 4 dragon, so I was like, oh, okay, draw another dragon. Like, I don't know if it was just on an incredibly unlucky, but I had 2 events in a row where that happened, where my only losses came from somehow just me having a 6 card hand with 5 bricks in it every
I mean,
time.
it's.
And I'm playing my bricks
I
actively,
mean, if that's
obviously. Like I'm
happening, like,
throwing that stuff down,
yeah, yeah.
and
Um,
and I'm playing less bricks than I did with the Zushanks. Remember Zushanks? I'm actually playing a lot less bricks than I was with Zushanks nowadays.
yeah.
And with Zushanks, they didn't have this problem. Mostly because I was probably bottom decking
So
all my I was probably bottom decking everything.
yeah,
So, and I was able to count when I would get it back in my hand. So,
Shanks is just like, I mean, it is a draw what you need deck.
yeah.
That is true. I mean, people are doing very well with it. It's getting
Honestly,
a
I feel
lot of
like it's
tops.
I feel like it's not doing as well as and maybe it is, maybe it is. I just felt like the conversion rate wasn't that strong but maybe because everyone and their mother's on it.
I don't think the conversion rate isn't like,
Yeah,
it's
that's
not like
probably
crazy. It's
why.
not like Dofi levels
Yeah,
of,
Dofi, like you had half the room playing
oh
Dofi and
nine.
40% of the room makes it through, like to
Yeah,
the
no,
top,
it wasn't to
40%
that
top cuts
degree, but
Dofi.
it's like, it's about right.
Yeah.
It's not crazy. It's not too low. So people are performing on Shanks, and there's still going to be a lot of them. That's for sure. So
Yeah, I still think it's probably going to be the most played deck in the room. Still.
yeah,
Despite
yeah,
everything, I still think Shanks will be the most played deck in the room. So if your deck doesn't do good against Shanks, just like don't even bother. Uh,
yep.
I think it'll be Shanks is the most played deck. Probably purple Luffy or green purple is the second most played deck. I feel like I would have put green purple as number 2, but product scarcity.
Yeah,
It's
just
hard
with
to
the
say.
product.
Yeah, so it's probably gonna be like this number 1 for sure. This is number 2, or this is number 2, depending on product availability.
Hey,
I
maybe even, well, maybe not Blackbeard. I think
Blackbeard,
only
even
like, I mean,
yeah,
there's gonna be a lot.
there's gonna be a
There's
lot of
gonna be a
them, but
lot,
I just don't
but
think it's gonna be the most played deck. Even when it was quote unquote one of the better
yeah,
deck, like
no.
number 2 or number 1, arguably, it still wasn't even close to the Shanks numbers. It was like
Yeah,
half.
all those top
They're
players, yeah, all the top players like Jonas and Impact, they were on
on
Blackbeard.
Blackbeard, yeah.
They're probably not going to be on. They're probably going to be on GP. I'd
I
assume.
think
Maybe I'm wrong.
we'll have to see. I don't want to speak for anyone. I do know that Jonas was playing green purple in Japan when he went, and he was smoking people. I was watching that stream.
Yeah.
He was doing really really well. At least in like that, there was like a big tournament that Kai hosted, and it was streamed, and he was doing
Yeah.
well. Either way, thank you for joining me. Any closing thoughts?
That's it.
All right. Take it easy, guys. I'll try to do a little bit more content in EB02 and onward, especially with the starter decks coming in OP11. I feel like that's going to shake some things up. All right, have a good one.